On an isolated island, populated by repugnant and violent men, a snarky mercenary and a computer expert are on a mission to retrieve secret files. In order to survive, our heroic duo must battle chuds, nice guys, and the king of incels. Femininity in the post-apocalypse.
Hello there, my handsome humans of havoc. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Femininity in the Post-Apocalypse, a feminist exploration of dystopian media. I'm your host, Klaire Lockheart. I'm an artist who specializes in painting dudes in man caves, and before I get started on my next big project, I'm happy that I get to discuss a novella with my fantastic guest. After we divulge the plot, we'll rate the book on the Maenad-O-Meter. After that, I'll have the pleasure of introducing you to the current recipient of the Honorary Doctor of Dystopian Studies degree from the Unaccredited College of Klaire. Speaking of honorary doctorate recipients, it's my pleasure to announce that Dr. Rachael-Anne Omps is my guest. Rachel is a 3D print wizard, and you may remember her from when we discussed Elbrick Duer's woodcut print titled The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse during the first season of the show. You might also be familiar with her compassionate work as a death educator. Some of you might also know Rachel from the Dragon Strong Reading Academy. Regardless of how you know Rachel, or if this is your first time meeting her, I want to guide you to her website so you can see all the amazing things she creates, including little baby bats, golems, and dragons that you can own. Her site is rachaelanneomps.com, and that's spelled RachaelAnneOmps. Everyone, please welcome to the show, Dr. Rachel.
Hi, Klaire.
Hi, I'm so happy you can be here.
I'm so happy to be back. It's always great to discuss weird things with you.
I'm so happy I'm able to catch you between some of these incredible events you have going on. And I know you have some amazing things happening in October. Do you mind sharing with us what's going on in your calendar?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to host 3 different events in October. So the first event is just a basic death education class, and this aligns with my work as a death educator and a death companion. So we basically just educate the community on what your death options are, because for the longest time I was stuck in this routine of when I die, it's either put in a box or turned into ash. And turns out there's so many more options depending on where you live. So I'm going to go over those options with a group on October 18th. And right now it's going to be in person, but I think as we get closer to the actual date of October 18th, I may open up a virtual room as well that night to allow out-of-state folks to come and listen to what their options are. It'll be from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. It'll be in the downtown Armory in Greeley, Colorado, and that is 614 8th Avenue in Greeley, Colorado, 80631. Totally free to attend. You're welcome to make a donation, but definitely don't feel like you have to bring anything except yourself and a notebook.
Oh, awesome. What about those other events you have coming up?
October 19th, which is a Sunday, I'm hosting a writing class with the Black Box Artist Collective. So for that writing class, I'm actually hosting a write your own obituary class.
Oh,
And
wow.
oh yeah, never in my life have I thought about writing my own obituary. I've always just kind of wondered who's going to do it. And it turns out you absolutely can pre-write your own obituary, and you can update it daily, weekly, yearly. And it's one less thing your loved ones have to do in a time of so much, like trauma and stress. And we just go over like 3 big questions. Those questions are to get you thinking about what your true values are in life. And if you're currently not aligning with it in your day-to-day actions, you can literally rewrite your life right now. You don't have to die on the path that you're on. You can start making these changes to get yourself aligned with what you want your obituary to say.
That is so cool.
It's a really amazing concept. I heard of this concept on a podcast called Grand Exit, and it's a podcast all about death conversations between someone who is terminal and one of their best friends who is currently just living her life as a non-terminal human.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And you
Yay.
have one more event, you said, for October.
Yes, this is long overdue and very anticipated because I do get stopped by folks in person. On October 25th, I am bringing back my ghost stories. So on October 25th, I'll be back inside the Armory, so 614 8th Avenue in Greeley. Doors open at 6:30, stories start at 7 p.m. And all these ghost stories are either my life experiences or told to me by other people who have experienced things we just cannot explain away. Like I do my best as a open-minded person to rationalize away certain things of like, okay, this was just something fell and made that big boom. It wasn't a ghost just like drop kicking onto the floor or something. But yeah, so it's all real life ghost stories. I have some new ones that have never been told in public. So it'll be so much fun. We're gonna have some spooky, delicious treats and coffee available, as well as some non-caffeinated things too. So you can survive your night with a nice snack or warm drink.
That's really exciting. You are
Yay.
a fantastic storyteller. And Rachel, I always enjoy hearing about what books you've been reading too. And that's why I'm so excited that you added Escape from Incel Island by Margaret Killjoy to your reading list. This publication came out in 2023, so it's a little on the new side, but I'd love for you to share your immediate reaction with this novella.
I definitely enjoyed it. What's interesting is I asked my current business partner, yeah, I sent him a picture of the book and I was like, hey, do you have this? And he's like, no, but honestly, we've had other pieces by Margaret in the store. And so they were super nice. They got me a copy and I read it and I almost wish it was longer. I kind of wanted to know what happens after it ended. And I was like, wait, but there's more story here. I want to hear, read what happens next. But pretty well written. It was nicely descriptive, but not overly descriptive because some descriptions get a little gross to where it's too visual. I don't know if you've ever read a book where like you're sitting there, you're starting to cringe because you're just like, oh my God, the description on this. But yeah, it was good. I liked it.
I think I bought this book because the title made me giggle.
It is a funny one.
Yes, and I was happy that my local bookstore was able to order it for me. Now, usually I don't find violent stories very entertaining, but this book sort of had a Rocky and Bullwinkle framing device, and that made it endear itself to me.
Yeah, I'm usually not super into like action-packed books, but the way this is written and the little bit of like delirious humor that gets put in certain spots was great. And I really enjoyed the sass. I love it when a character is sassy because then I can feel like I can relate because there are times where snarky comments like slip out like it does with the main characters. And then there's other times where I have like the internal snarky thoughts. And it was just great to like see that kind of represented in a book.
Yeah, it was pretty great. So I have to share my complete bias. I thoroughly enjoyed this story, and I'm so happy that you could join me to discuss it. But before we share the plot of the story, Rachel, what snacks or beverages did you enjoy while reading Escape from Incel Island?
Since Escape from Incel Island was only 93 pages, it's a very short read. So I just drank some water. Didn't have enough time to get up and get a snack.
I most recently reread this book when I was taking a break between photo shoots at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. So, as I was hiding from the bizarrely rigid gender roles of the divorced dad motorcycle cosplay convention,
But the way the world is right now, yeah, that's probably pretty accurate for what you found out there.
so I was camped out in the van, consuming my own body weight in liquid death iced tea because I needed the caffeine and it was over 90 degrees every single day I was out there. Also, liquid death seemed like an appropriate beverage to pair with this dystopian story.
Yeah, do you think there's some sort of way we could get a sponsorship between like Escape from Incel Island and Liquid Death. This seems like stuff they would like. I don't know if you ever watched their little commercials on any social media or on YouTube,
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like this would weirdly fit in with their themes that
R-
they promote.
Ooh, yeah. If Margaret Killjoy gets hired by Liquid Death, then we get to be friends with all of them too, I think.
Yes. Even if it just means like a little discount on Liquid Death. I don't need free Liquid Death. I love it. I also have gotten the teas recently. What's your favorite Liquid Death tea flavor?
Grim Leafer.
So my favorite flavor of Liquid Death tea was the Rest in Peach. It had just a nice peach flavor to it, but it wasn't overwhelming and it didn't taste like candy peaches, like peach rings. It tastes like actual peach.
Yeah, that's a good flavor. Oh, but allow me to use this chat about beverages as a smooth transition into the Maenad-O-Meter, which is named after the ancient Greek Maenads, who were known for drinking and having a good time. After we discuss the novella, we'll rate it on the Maenad-O-Meter using a scale of 0 to 5 skulls. I want to give a clear warning to any of our friends listening who haven't yet read Escape from Incel Island by Margaret Killjoy. Pause this show, get your mitts on a copy, and read it. It's a short book. It's less than 100 pages, which is great for everyone who feels like it's been too long since they've finished a book. Oh, and Rachel, you've been doing a lot of work to be able to encourage people to read more. Would you mind telling us about your booklet that has dragons in it?
Yes, absolutely. One of my good friends and my current business partner slash boss, it's a very complicated relationship. Basically, we're friends that have started to work together, I guess is the best description. He's been a bookworm his whole life. That guy will go through books like it's nothing. And growing up, we both went through the Book It program, and that may ring some faint bells for some of you. Book It was a reward system. So if you read X amount of books, you got a coupon for a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut. And this program was a raging success back in like the 90s, right? How many kids did they get to read books and how many free pizzas did they give out? I don't know the statistics, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere. So unfortunately, Book It has gone away. My friend who owns the bookstore, he has tried to reach out to other pizza places, both local and chains. And we've just never gotten any sort of reply or any interest. Nobody's wanted to bring Book It back. And we're like, this is so disappointing. Like, why wouldn't you want to encourage literacy? Literacy rates are dropping. We want to bring them back up. And so he decided to be like, fuck it. We're going to make our own version because I'm a 3D print wizard now. And he's the one that started the farm that I now work on. We collaborated with another creator in the community. Her name is Megan K.M. Kennedy. She's a wonderful artist. She helped organize the signups. She got together the reading logs. She even made a beautiful certificate of adoption for the kids. And so the way the process worked was the kids signed up online. We had 1,100 kids sign up. 900 kids came and got their starter dragons. So they got their first reading log and they got a little dragon that was roughly 2, maybe 3 inches long. Pretty little, but a great starter. And we told the kids, dragons love knowledge. So as you read to the dragons, they will grow. And once they finish their first reading log, they could come back with the reading log and the level 1 dragon. Or if they really loved it, they could keep their level 1. They would get a level 2 dragon and a new reading log. Same process, finish that log, come back with the log and the second dragon, or keep the second dragon. And they got one big dragon that was up to 24 inches long for their final dragon. Yeah, they
Oh,
were big,
wow.
and there was such a wide variety for these kids to pick from. All said and done, 540 kids got to the final level. Here's the big kicker. This was 100% free.
That's amazing.
Yes, some of the adults were just so inspired and so badly wanted to join that we did create a Dragon Strong Reading Academy for adults to encourage those adults who haven't read in a while to pick up some books. And we had about 100 adults sign up. Now, the adult sign up was $25, and those $25 went back into paying for filament for the kids. So we made sure this was a zero profit thing. It was 100% community driven. It was so great to see the community come out and be interested in books again. So many parents were so grateful. Like they thanked us. They're like, our kids have read so much this summer and it's been such a treat.
That is so incredible. And so I hope that inspires our friends listening to get started on reading a whole bunch of books, which could include this one. So after they've gone out and read Escape from Incel Island, then they can join us back for our discussion. Now, just in case someone is listening to this program while doing something that prevents them from hitting pause immediately, I'm going to provide a few other warnings about this book. First of all, it contains a lot of violence, a ton of violence, and a little extra bonus violence. I think the violence per page ratio makes this one of the most violent books I've read, but it's that particular type of cartoon violence, so I find it entertaining. Rachel, did you have any warnings you want to share as we wait for the last couple people to pause the show so they can buy or borrow a copy of this book?
I would agree it's violent. It's not like overly, I will say it's not overly gory. Characters do talk about blood, but it never created a visual in my head that made me go like, ugh, or like start gagging. Like it's done in a slapstick kind of way.
Yeah. Other than that, maybe some of the language isn't suitable for all audiences.
Yeah, language. I mean, well, okay. They do use like dick in a couple. And I was like, I really don't think there was anything worse than like fuck or shit, but no, there
Yeah.
was dick.
If I was listening to the audiobook, I would not listen to it at work.
No, yeah, this is definitely a listen at home type thing, unless your workspace is very distant, like you don't have to be close to anybody.
Yeah. Now, I do want to invite you to jump in at any time during the synopsis to provide details or share your reactions. On an isolated island, populated by repugnant and violent men, a snarky mercenary named Man-Killer Jones accompanies Dr. Helena Morrison on a mission for the United States military. There are no visitors or staff on this island because the risk of prisoners escaping is too great. After Man-Killer lands the octocopter, they meet their contact, Sir Donald Laszlo IV, Esquire, on the dock. He makes a bad first impression by messing up Man-Killer's name, so they refer to him as Ducky in return. When Ducky is rebuffed by Dr. Helena Morrison, he lectures at the heroes about men, nature, and testosterone. He complains that he and all the men there have suffered immensely because they were lured to the island with the promise that they each were going to be given a woman to possess like property, but it was a ruse to imprison them.
World's smileless violin.
He thinks it's unfair that the government wanted to separate 5,000 misogynists from civilization simply because they feel entitled to owning women.
Again, world's smallest violin.
You've already wrote the soundtrack for this movie adaptation.
Especially for his part, man, all I could hear was just that really sad like violin that like sound like it's put in slapstick comedy type scenarios.
Yes.
So I pinned one of Dr. Morrison's quotes.
Go for it.
She said, "It's horrid, really. I mean, I'm constitutionally incapable of feeling bad for anyone who calls himself a nice guy." And he's kind of one of those dudes. He's calling himself a nice guy.
Yeah. Before Ducky can continue to whine, sirens sound and hundreds of men armed with ridiculous fanboy swords attack.
They did such a great job of describing all the different swords. And yeah, I really started thinking of some of those people who like their whole personality is nothing but the swords they collect. Now, I know there are knife collectors who do have like some swords. That's not the personality that was coming out. It was people who strictly were like, these swords are so cool. You've got katanas, broadswords, short swords. I don't remember what else they said, machetes in here. Like all I just imagined was just like this comical scene where the swords were dropped in a box because they said there were various supply drops and they all just like raced to it and just stood there. And then they just grabbed them. We're like, huh, and just like started like slowly like stabbing and hacking at each other. Like oh my gosh, what's the movie where it's like the chimps are at the beginning of the scene?
Oh, A Space Odyssey.
Yes, it was like that playing in my head, but with the swords.
As the main characters retreat, Ducky explains that the government previously dropped a care package that contained a gold crown, and then a man named Harold Dixon snagged it and declared himself the king. He has almost 1,000 volatile followers who fight with the other two dominant factions on the island. There are about 1,000 volcels who declared that they're celibate voluntarily while imprisoned on an island populated only with other similar men. Additionally, there are about 500 self-proclaimed nice guys who want to escape the island.
Like I said, constitutionally incapable of feeling bad for somebody who calls himself a nice guy. Because it's usually the people who call themselves nice guys that either have like a secret agenda for their niceness or it's just absolute bullshit. The true nice guys that I do know in my life do not call each other nice guys, nor do they refer to other people who are actually nice guys as nice guys.
Right. Ducky and his 4 companions consider themselves nice guys, even though they're all in this predicament because they volunteered to move to an isolated island so they could own women like property. From the original 5,000 men, only half remain because they keep killing each other. One of the 4 nice guys dies, screaming his own name, pantsless, and wielding a sword so the others can continue their mission.
It's actually Leroy Jenkins. And for anybody who's seen the viral YouTube video of some friends playing World of Warcraft, and if you haven't seen it, go YouTube World of Warcraft Leroy Jenkins, and you'll suddenly be able to hear it in your head.
I was unaware of that reference when I read it, so thank you for sharing.
Anytime.
On their quest to retrieve the sensitive data from the military, Manhunter, Helena, Ducky, and 3 of the remaining nice guys run through a lair of cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
I just remember they were called Chuds.
After the protagonists slay a few of the Chuds in a brief skirmish, the remaining cannibals return to their pornographic video games. Mankiller and company run deep into the many sub-basements of an old military base until they reach the server room. After pulling the only entry point shut, incels instantly begin pounding on the door. Helena immediately gets to work on her computer and assumes she is searching for an encryption key or something equally important to the government. As she works, she wonders why the army sent 2 femmes to do this job when there were probably equally qualified men who could have been hired with less risk. Over the intercom, King Dixon threatens the 2 newcomers as Helena downloads the secret file. Even though they were told not to open the files, Mankiller insists. When you first read this book, Rachel, were you able to predict what was on those files?
No. Honestly, when they said they were looking for files secret.rar,
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, secret, military. My assumption was like some sort of insane details about how to emergency escape from the island or nuke codes. But yeah, when they finally opened the file, I was just like, oh, are you fucking serious?
They are irate when they take a peek and discover they were sent on this dangerous mission by General Albion simply to retrieve his phallic photographs.
Nothing like good old-fashioned sexting.
Meanwhile, over the intercom, the Incel King offers to let the mercenary and the computer expert leave if they hand over the secrets. Mankiller is about to agree because they figured out that the 2 of them were hired specifically because the incels would kill them, and this would allow the male politicians to have an excuse to bomb the island since they love to manipulate the public into thinking that they're good because they protect women. Ducky, who was working for the general all along, pulls a gun and shoots at Mankiller, who returns fire and then snaps his neck for good measure. Helena hypothesizes General Albion made a deal with each of the incel leaders with the promise that whoever murders her and Mankiller will be allowed to leave the island as a reward. Helena, Mankiller, and the 3 remaining nice guys feign death to trick the incels when they break into the server room. After another battle, only 2 nice guys remain, Kevin and Cone. Unfortunately, Mankiller is out of ammunition, Plus, an incel stabbed them in the foot with a Ninja Turtle weapon.
I will admit that injury sort of perplexed me because I was like, out of all the places you could have been stabbed, the foot is a weird one, and that had to have been just like the weirdest collision in order to get stabbed right in the foot. But I guess that's a great fighting tip if the apocalypse really does come in the future. If someone's trying to fight you, just spear down right into their foot with your Ninja Turtle weapon.
Yes. And Mankiller is injured pretty badly from that. As the quartet leaves the base, Mankiller is dumbfounded when Cone asks about pronouns. He shares that he has a trans sister, and Kevin reveals that he has a cousin who is non-binary. The two men further explain that they used to be the worst nice guys because they believed that, and I quoted from the book, women were vending machines that you put kindness tokens into to get sex. But they've been learning.
I wish more, quote, nice guys, unquote, understood that concept. You don't treat women or non-binary people or just anybody in general with kindness and expect some sort of either sex or favor back to you in return. Like, that's not how kindness works. You're kind because you actually care and you expect nothing in return. If they do return the kindness, that's just because they wanted to. Thank you. But yeah, I really wish more guys would read this book and understand this is not how the world works. This is not how kindness works.
Friendship is something that we do because we want to be friends with people. It's forming relationships and having fun.
Yeah, and we like them. You're not friends with somebody to get something out of them. That's just straight up using.
Right, that's manipulative. That's the opposite of friendship. The group travels to the city of the Volcels, which is a fake French Renaissance festival led by a fake French monk called Pepe.
I liked this character because there's somewhere when they meet Pepe where they like trigger him and his fake French accent starts to slip and I'm like,
Sacre bleu! The Volcel leader proclaims that the island is a paradise for beta males and they'll offer sanctuary. He warns that no one should go into the woods at night because there are predators who hunt the most dangerous prey with exotic sci-fi weapons. Mankiller and company spend the night in a shack, but they are awakened by Princess Marigold Dandelion the Sapphic, who is a young woman who volunteered to come to the island 5 years ago due to a tragic upbringing and falling for incel ideology before transitioning.
I found this character very interesting. I feel like the way that some people are raised is you're raised to adapt to other ideologies and to wash yourself of your true sense of who you are. When they end up trapped on the island and you're left with nothing but your thoughts and trying to escape violence at all times, finally let them sit with themselves and realize who they are. At first, I was very confused. I was like, why is there a female on the island? And then when they discussed that Marigold is transgender, I was like, oh, I wonder how many other people on this island actually ended up being transgender or realized that they were just playing pretend. They were just masking when they were actually in society.
Yeah. And I like the character of Princess Marigold as well. I feel like I have met her at a Renaissance festival on more than one occasion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like I have met a couple Marigolds.
And they are always a delight.
So delightful.
So Princess Marigold has been hiding amongst the Volcels because the robes concealed her gender, but she warns the group that Pepe has ordered their deaths. So they flee from the ninja star-wielding faux French monks into the forest, which is difficult because Mankiller's foot injury is so bad that they need to lean on Kevin to help them walk. Predators immediately attack, and they are led by a man named Greg, who Mankiller once boned while on a mission in Germany. Mankiller is surprised because they thought Greg died on Volcano Island, to which Greg retorts, "I'm too handsome to die on an island with a name as dumb as that." Rachel, is there anywhere that has too silly of a name for you to die on?
No, I don't think so. We can't predict when we're going to die. Like, if you're going to travel somewhere and you're like, wow, the name of this city is hilly, you got to think about, well, what if you die there?
I wonder how I could work that into my own obituary. If I learn how to write one from you.
You could have your ideal death, right? You could make a fantasy death where you had your ideal setting, your ideal place. Where would you want that to be? And is the name silly?
I've never thought about where I want to die. I just feel like if I could pick how I die, it would be like mid cheesecake.
Mint cheesecake.
Yeah, because I ate so much. My heart explodes with joy.
That's a great ideal death. I haven't heard that one before. Okay, death by cheesecake.
Yeah, do you have one?
I think I would just want the traditional, like, I spend a great day with friends or family and see maybe a beautiful sunset or just have like a great night out with friends and then just go to sleep and never see the sunrise again. Just something nice and peaceful. That's my ideal death.
That does sound a lot better than Volcano Island.
Yeah.
Greg then reveals that he is leading a group of 6 tourists to test out their futuristic weapons by killing incels. This displeases Mankiller, who shoots him, but he is wearing armor. So a gunfight ensues. One of the inexperienced tourists shoots a laser net that rips off Greg's arm. All the tourists are easily defeated, but Greg escapes.
Poor one-armed Greg.
Mankiller is delirious at this point due to blood loss as thousands of men gather on the beach while helicopters land and bring additional soldiers. Marigold distributes the weaponry she looted from the dead predators, and she leads the group to the sisters, even though she thinks they're stuck up because her ex-girlfriend lives amongst them.
Nothing so cringe as like running into an ex if you ended on bad terms. There are some people who end on great terms, right? And it's not so cringe, but it sounded like this one was pretty rough.
They arrive at a cabin hidden in the forest. When Mankiller regains consciousness, she's greeted by a middle-aged nun and a plate of disgusting cookies.
When I read the description for these cookies, I was so grossed out. I was like, I would try to be open-minded and at least try them, but if I ate one of these cookies and it was as bad as it was described, I probably would never eat another cookie in my life.
Yeah. The nun is Sister Killingsworth, and the cookies are made with pig butter and wild sugar cane.
Ugh.
They sound horrible.
I don't want to think too hard about where the pig butter came from, because I know where cow butter is supposed to come from, right?
Yes.
Where's that pig butter coming from?
Sister Killingsworth explains that she journeyed to Incel Island with 2 other nuns as an act of compassion, but they quickly discovered that was a terrible idea. They took refuge from the incels with the other sisters in the woods. Mankiller and the nun rejoin the group and learn of the plan to sneak past the incels, General Albion, and his men with rifles so they can leave the island. While most of the group takes action, Kevin warns Mankiller that he thinks Cone, the other nice guy, might not actually be very nice.
What a surprise.
Dun dun dun. Cone hates assigned female at birth people because he blames them for his problems, but he has learned how to say the right things even if he doesn't believe them.
Wow, if that isn't every manipulative person who identifies as, like, male on this planet.
Yes, he is a certified nice guy.
Yeah. Certified nice guy.
Cone revealed his true character when he tried to flirt with a sister, but when she spurned him, he didn't take the rejection well. I wish I could... Actually, I can. I'll just tell all of our friends listening the fabulous eye roll you just shared with me.
I mean, what's interesting is I had a conversation with somebody I actually consider a nice guy last night, and we were talking about different industries. And he mentioned he's been a bartender in the past, and he's like, it's not great for men, but he's like, I've seen how it's also just atrocious to women and just how life is atrocious to women in general. And I was like, yeah, being on this side of the gender line, being female, identifying as female, it's rough because so many men are raised with that expectation of like, if I can't call you, if I flirt with you, you should immediately accept me. I'm like the hottest thing on this planet. You should immediately be wooed by me. And if you're a very strong female with a lot of boundaries and you're not easily wooed by these men and you reject them, then you're they start calling you names. They start calling you a bitch,
Hmm.
worse names than that because you have rejected them or shown no interest. And then the scary thing is if you do reject these men, sometimes they will attack you or even kill you because you rejected them. And that's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Oh, it is. It's very real and it's scary.
Yeah. So yeah, when they describe that in the book, I mean, I feel like Margaret Killjoy was putting in some real life experiences here. So
Oh,
I'm
definitely.
guessing, yeah, I'm guessing Margaret at some point rejected a man who was a self-proclaimed nice guy, and then yeah, saw the ugly side to what happens when you reject the nice guys.
Hmm. Mankiller springs to action and is determined to find Cone. They travel through the forest using a spear as a crutch. They discover Cone conspiring with four armed men as they gripe about femoids. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. This is one of the many vocabulary words I was unfamiliar with before I read this book. It's apparently a derogatory term that is meant to dehumanize women, like they're
Oh,
androids.
yeah, but then did you see, I don't know, within the last year or something like that, there are these sexual robots, right, that certain industries are trying to make because you can get like the life-size dolls, like play dolls or sex dolls, whatever you want to refer to them as. But over the years, they've been sort of trying to give them personalities with robotics. And so I've seen those atrocious posts by these same nice guys saying that, like, oh, when these robots are fully launched, we're not going to need you women. And it's like, you're the type of guy that women are not going to be sad about losing, right?
Right?
Like, we won't be sad that you're not on the market anymore because you got your little robot sex doll that you can put all your nastiness towards. And honestly, I hope they become self-aware and just off the men. Like, come on. Apocalyptic sex dolls is how we go out.
Oh, that's so much better than the tangent I was going to go on about the word femoid and how clunky it is.
It
And
is clunky.
I'm really mad that they didn't start using the term womandroid instead. I mean,
These are incels. This same sort of category is not always the most creative.
yeah, not so clever.
Yeah. Missed opportunity, guys.
I know. Anyway, Mankiller then attempts to return to the cabin to warn their comrades, but they trip. Cone attacks, but Mankiller lives up to their namesake once again when they impale Cone with a spear and take his alien gun, which they use to slice and dice the other four conspirators.
Honestly, I think that's probably one of the coolest weapons I've ever read about. Like, I understand this was like a very violent scene in the book, but reading it, I was like, wow, that would be such a cool weapon in that kind of circumstance.
Yes. As Mankiller books it for the cabin, they encounter Greg and an army of spear bearers. Instead of attacking, Greg nopes on out of there. Upon arrival, Mankiller takes needed painkillers and warns the group. They also confide in Kevin that they're a special ops mercenary, and they met Greg while working as an adventure tour guide. They also hunted poachers in Africa for a while, but they quit and made their clients hire a local person instead. Even though Mankiller continues to work for rich a-holes, they get to pick the jobs they like. Dr. Helena Morrison confesses that she took this gig because the job market is oversaturated with too many PhDs and she needed to pay off her student loans.
Isn't that just so many of us in this country right now?
Oh, wow. As a person who also has a terminal degree in my field, I have taken horrible jobs to pay off my student loans,
Yep.
including teaching kindergarten, but it certainly wasn't nearly as lucrative, even though the danger was about the same.
I have quite often heard certain age ranges of children, usually by kindergarten age, as being like drunk adults. Some have really good personal space, some not so much. But yeah, they're basically like drunk little adults because you can't stop the things that come out of their mouths or the things that they impulsively like to do, like stick glue in their mouth or like try out paints to see if they taste good or anything. And it's just like, man, the stuff I've watched, I love my nephews. I don't know if they'll listen to this. I love you guys so much. But the stuff you did at certain ages made me a little bit concerned with how do we survive this age range? Like, I understand natural selection happens for a reason, but my God. Some of the things they do.
Worried that the incels will burn the sisters' cabin down, the protagonists decide to beat them to it. They make the house as flammable as possible and throw bombs made from shells filled with gunpowder before they slip out the back door. The beach is now armed with machine gun nests, mortars, drones, and incels, which fills our plucky heroes with despair. However, Helena has an idea. When Incel Island was first established, she and her message board friends hacked into the soldiers' cameras so they could laugh at the incels who were foolish enough to think the government was going to hand out women when they arrived. Helena wants to get in front of those cameras to show that there are innocent women on the island so the general and the incels can't kill them. After the sisters depart, Marigold, Helena, Kevin, and Mankiller journey to meet the shark fuckers.
That word right there. There's all kinds of discussions in real life and on the internet about if certain types of men could, they would. And this sounded like the group that if they could, they would. And apparently they did.
This group of men are the ones who are manufacturing the gunpowder. And they molest sharks.
They claimed it was only once, though.
Yes.
It was just the one time. Come on.
They live in a baffling, lofted village, plus they have rowboats. They want to raise a Lovecraftian god named Dagon to destroy the world, but it's been years since they performed a human sacrifice. When the team encounters the shark stupors, Mankiller notes, "You can't let certain cis men be alone anywhere, or they'll run around wearing a shirt and no pants. It's a weird, unspoken law."
I would have to agree with this. Like, 10 out of 10, no notes. I did have the exact line pinned in my book, too, because I thought it was just absolutely like, this is fucking on point. Humans in general are weird.
Yes.
But there's different levels of weird, and yeah, certain cis men are gonna Donald Duck it, and I don't. If you're letting the air breathe down there, why are you wearing a shirt? Come on. Doesn't make any sense.
But the lead pantsless man is High Caller Richard, and he agrees to team up with Mankiller because he doesn't want the island destroyed until he can destroy the entire planet first. The fish fornicators agree to trade a cyberpunk gun for a boat later that night. They also demand to be called the Eldritch Children, not shark fuckers, because, as you pointed out, that was only once.
Allegedly.
As Helena exclaims that she's so sick of men crying about how they're victims because women won't bang them, helicopters destroy the seaside village and their boats with napalm.
Yeah, that was an intense scene in the book. I wasn't ready for napalm. But honestly, the twist the book kept taking, I was like, I probably should have had napalm on my bingo card somewhere.
It was such a fun, fast-paced story. It was hard for me to have background thoughts to try and predict what was next.
Yeah, I kept trying to think through like what's gonna happen next. How are they gonna get through this scene? And then it was not what I expected. Here's Princess Marigold. Here's a nunnery in the forest. Here's napalm. What?
Here's a bunch of men with no pants.
But shirts on. We're gonna Donald Duck it.
Oh my goodness. The cult men argue about cult stuff until Richard chastises them for their cowardice. He wants them to storm the beach. The Eldritch Children, who formerly fondled fish, work themselves up into a cheering frenzy, and then they flay Richard as a sacrifice.
Flaying people alive is its whole own level.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mankiller, Helena, Marigold, and Kevin are accompanied by 6 Aquamen as they move through the woods armed with arrows and seashell explosives. Their goal is to get in front of the cameras so Helena's feminist nerds will see them. There's fighting, and the protagonists run toward the beach. General Albion confronts them on their rowboat, and he informs them he wants the 2 women to tell the world about the horrors of the island so he can send more prisoners there. Helena agrees to do his bidding with a wink, and Mankiller goes along with the ruse if they can bring Marigold with them. The general agrees, but forbids them from taking any men. He and the soldiers disengage so the heroes can leave. Mankiller apologizes to Kevin because he has to stay. Kevin says that his work is on the island so he can help save some of the men. This prompts Mankiller to confess that she wanted to nail him.
I did find that little thought bubble that kept reappearing for Mankiller kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That they came to the island hating all incels, and then they met a genuinely true nice guy, and
Yeah.
then Mankiller's feelings changed and they wanted to bed this guy. And they have that thought like at multiple different points as the story starts to get near the end.
Yeah. Helena gets permission to give Kevin a kiss, and then Mankiller does the same. One of the cult bros asks if he can get a kiss too, and Mankiller boots him into the water.
This scene is perfect. It's all about consent. The number one rule that people should take with them in life is consent is mandatory. This is a perfect example. They ask Kevin, Kevin says yes, and then, they ask Kevin again, he says yes. And then, yeah, little incel guy just chilling there on the dock, and they're like, no, pop, into the water.
Mankiller, Marigold, and Helena then row off to their next adventure.
Off into the sunset.
Speaking of upsetting horrors perpetuated by American culture, do you know what time it is, Rachel?
I do not.
It's time for an ad break.
Oh no!
Femininity in the Post-Apocalypse is brought to you by the Unaccredited College of Klaire. I named my totally real art school UCK because, you shouldn't have to go into debt to learn about art. Find me at patreon.com/Klaire Lockheart to learn how to frame artwork, paint with oils, write a CV, or how to give an artist talk. Even if you're not an artist, you can still join UCK to show your support for the work that I do. Just head to patreon.com/Klaire Lockheart, and that's spelled KLAIRELOCKHEART. Welcome back to the program, my friends. I want to remind everyone listening that the goal of Femininity in the Post-Apocalypse is to examine dystopian media through an intersectional feminist lens. I'm particularly interested in seeing how people of marginalized genders contribute to the stories we discuss. I also want to share that it's okay if we disagree, because that's part of the fun of talking about the books we read. Rachel, I would love to hear your thoughts about the characters from Escape from Incel Island.
So I would say the mass majority of the characters are incels, the worst of the worst masculine figures. And, I would say at this point in life, most female identifying folks have probably met this type of person before. But our main characters, right? We got Dr. Morrison, Mankiller, Jones. Was it Kevin? Yeah, Kevin was our actual nice guy. Princess Marigold. I felt like they had quite the diversity. And then the fact that there were females who had gone to the island willingly to go on a mission to help folks and then realized that was kind of a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting too. I do still wonder how many other characters were perhaps transgender or secretly or openly gay. Outside of Marigold being transgender, I don't remember any discussion in the book about any characters coming out as gay. There was never a gay community discussed. So I was kind of curious about that because I feel like some incel men are repressing homosexual feelings and they're taught to be this toxic masculine character to repress and hide those feelings. But I feel like when you're stuck on an island with men,
yeah,
your true feelings may start to come out. And maybe, unfortunately, they are part of the group that got offed early on.
Yeah.
Because incels were all about we're here to claim women. You're gonna F up our priorities.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was the one group that really wasn't represented. Now, I don't know if I missed this in the description. I didn't hear anybody described as people of color.
I think the only time specifically ethnicity was mentioned was when Mankiller was talking about working in Africa and then finding out that, oh, well, we should hire a local person instead.
Yeah, that was a really awesome thing to do, to quit this well-paying job and give it to a local instead. Like, how
Right.
awesome is that? Supporting community. Come on.
And it just makes Mankiller seem even more awesome.
Yeah, if you notice, but they had some regrets in parts of their discussion. Like I pinned one quote, Man Killer's having a discussion with Kevin.
Okay.
And this is when they're talking about they've given up the job to a local person in Africa. And Kevin asks, that's more ethical, doing the bidding of the ultra rich? And Man Killer says, pretty much everyone is doing the bidding of the ultra rich. And I sat there and I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
How accurate is that? All these day jobs that we get, we work retail for like a big corporation like Walmart.
Yeah.
You're all doing the bidding of the ultra rich. But we need jobs because society says we need money
Yep.
in order to afford nice things instead of just working as a community to build nice things.
Right. I worked for a university for a while in a non-teaching capacity, and it was really soul crushing, especially because I would go to work and I'm like, hooray, I'm helping earn money to pay the football coach.
Yeah, those realizations. I kind of had that with my day job this year. So I switched jobs in June. I
Yeah.
quit the job that I had been at for 6 years because it was a job that was part of a parent company with a bunch of brands underneath it. And our brand, I guess, had a bad year last year. It wasn't portrayed that way to us. So that was something that sort of was upsetting,
Mm-hmm.
that we were portrayed as like, hey, we're doing pretty okay. Everything's fine. And then I came back from a month away. 25% of the company was let go the day after I came back.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then it kind of really hit that I'm working for a company that's going to listen to its investors, which is like good, right? You should sort of listen to the investors. But part of me is still really struggles with, did the investors know when they voted a certain way that 25% of the company was going to be fired? Like, did you realize that you cost 50 plus people their jobs when you voted the way you did?
Yeah.
That was definitely soul crushing. And that was where I was just like, I don't think I can do this anymore.
Now, was that a job where sometimes you would feel a little snarky and sassy?
Yes. Yes, working, I like to say I play well with most other people, but working day to day, you come across some difficult personalities. And
Hmm.
so some of the salt that was thrown at me led me to have these internal snarky comments or have shared snarky thoughts with trusted people there.
Is that part of the reason you found the character of Mankiller relatable?
I feel like Man Killer is relatable because I've had those snarky opinions since probably like teenage years, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're a teenager, especially as you get like into late middle school and into high school, you start realizing all the personalities, including the, self-proclaimed nice guys,
Hmm.
and how some people can be real assholes. So I didn't always want to say what I was thinking out loud. So I started having those internal snarky, sassy thoughts.
I'm trying to think of another dystopian story that has a protagonist that happens to be non-binary, like Mankiller. It's rare for me to find women in these sorts of books and movies, and so I appreciate that the author wrote characters that demonstrate the spectrum of gender that we find in real life. And I wanted to share that if Margaret Killjoy was able to do this in less than 100 pages, I don't think other writers can use length of the story as an excuse not to.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. I have read some other series, not post-apocalypse themed, but I have read some other series where strong feminine characters, strong non-binary or transgender characters, people of color being represented. And those books have been longer books. Yeah, it's kind of a niche thing to find right now.
Hmm.
These specific types of post-apocalypse stories with these kinds of character mixes. Most of the post-apocalyptic stuff is like the world is shitty, women are being treated like trash, men are doing whatever.
Right. And especially in post-apocalyptic stories, I think it would make way more sense to have women and non-binary people and people who have faced oppression in their daily life before civilization collapses. Those would be the people who would survive and thrive in the post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, they definitely are the most toughened souls out there, I feel. They've gone through the worst of the worst. I think they for sure would survive. There's always going to be loss across all cultures and backgrounds.
Yeah.
But I think they would survive the best because they have the most resourcefulness and the most tools.
Yes. And I just want to share that I like the character of Man Killer Jones. They seem to have the perfect level of snarkiness for an action hero. And I do want to mention that Rachel Pearson, one of our friends at the Unaccredited College of Klaire, listened to the audiobook, but she didn't hear the pithy tone that I read. She wrote, I think what bothered me about this was that the narration seemed to be more serious than irreverent. The little twinkle in the eye that shows scheming or feistiness just wasn't there for me.
I will admit, I have yet to listen to an audiobook, and I think it's because I fear that the way someone else is reading it wouldn't align with how I read it.
Mm,
Because we all read books differently. There's some sort of quote out there that says 1,000 people reading the same book is the same book read 1,000 different ways, because we're all going to pick up on different things. So yeah, that's my inner fear right there of if I listen to somebody else tell it, it may not be told in a way that I enjoy.
yeah. There are a few audiobooks that I enjoy, but I read the physical book first, and that's how I started listening to audiobooks, or also when I've had long commutes, or if I'm working and I'm very messy and I feel like I need to hear a story. I just sometimes love having someone tell a story to me, but that is a valid point, and being able to read the story so you can interpret it yourself is a lot of fun.
Yes.
But back to the characters, I also enjoyed that Dr. Helena Morrison was established as a smart and competent character, even though no one really knew what her job was beyond she had a PhD in something about computers. I thought this was funny and executed well since the narrative was told from the perspective of Mankiller, who didn't remember Helena's actual job and qualifications or probably didn't bother to ask. That surprisingly felt realistic to me because I have some friends that I've known for years and I couldn't tell you what their jobs are and what they do at work.
Guilty as well over here.
Speaking of which, Rachel, you do some incredibly cool stuff with 3D printing. I have a vague notion that you work with technology, but I don't know the details. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how you got into 3D printing?
Absolutely. I got into 3D printing as a hobby. The way it started is my current business partner, friend, employer. He decided to get into 3D printing as a hobby and he started showing me what he was making. I was like, oh, this is so cool. So he sponsored my first printer.
Oh,
He
wow.
gifted, yeah, he was super cool. He gifted me my first printer. He's like, you know what, here, try it. And so I started trying it and I was like, wow, this is weirdly addictive. So his little collection of 3D printers has now sprung into a farm of 21 physically in the building that I'm in every day.
Oh,
And then
wow.
I have, yeah, and then I have two here at home. So we have an army of 23 printers. We primarily use bamboo P1P printers. I feel like they're the most user-friendly. They're the easiest printers to change parts on. So to 3D print, it's kind of a two-part process. You have the physical printer, like you would a paper printer in your house. You have the printer, it's its own entity, right? And then you have your computer program that tells coding and sends it to the 3D printer. So the way that coding works is really awesome people use Blender or similar apps to create a 3D print file. I haven't gotten the Blender skills down yet. That's kind of a refined talent. But the library of 3D prints is so large at this point that I don't feel like I have to have Blender skills yet. But you take a file that's usually called an STL, so S is in Sam, T is in Tom, L is in Louis, an STL file or a 3MF, so 3 and then M is in Michael, F is in Frank file. You download that file, you plug it into the program you're using. So with the Bamboo Lab printers, we use Bamboo Candy. It's their own branded program. You arrange the file in a virtual space. You can make it as big as your printer plate will allow, or you can make them kind of teeny tiny. Like we make some small enough to fit in those gumball machine, those quarter machine things.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we make some that small. And you tell the printer how you want it printed. You also make sure that the filament, which is like the ink, that creates the 3D print. You make sure that the ink setting is correct because there's various filaments out there. And then you tell it to print. And fingers crossed, you come out with a really great file. If something goes bonkers, you end up with what we call spaghetti, and it looks like a big old pile of just filament string.
Oh no.
Looks like spaghetti because prints do fail. Sometimes they get knocked loose, sometimes your settings are wrong, and it's a mess. But the printer itself sometimes needs some maintenance. So generally what I replace on the printers is what's called the hot end. So think of like the tip of a hot glue gun.
Mm-hmm.
That part sometimes clogs and just has to be replaced. They also just wear out over time with a lot of use because we really do put the printers to their paces. Extruder parts, so that's kind of like this little grippy wheel that pulls the filament, so your ink more or less, down and pushes it into the hot end. I've heard some brands are just horrible to try to work on.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a problem with the bamboo things. My only complaint is I'm sort of clumsy from time to time, so I end up with grease from the screws that move the plate up and down on my arms. I'll just look down and be like, oh, look, I'm covered in grease today. It seems overwhelming. I will admit I was very overwhelmed when I first got into it. But once you get into it, it is very awesome. You can make so many cool things. There's so many types of filament out there. We primarily stick with PLA, and PLA is made from plant matter. So think corn waste or other waste products from harvesting and turn it into a biodegradable plastic. So like think of like those agave-based straws, same concept, but it turns it into a biodegradable option. And we try to make sure we only use PLA because we don't want to add to plastic waste. So they will biodegrade and compost over time if it ever gets thrown out because, you know, humans throw things away.
Yeah. And one of the really cool things about the work that you're doing is you'll share videos of these creations being printed. And I know you share them on your social media. Do you mind sharing how our friends listening can find you so they can watch some of these videos?
Yes, I primarily share my videos on Instagram, and my username is super simple. It's just my name. So Rachael-Anne-Omps. You can also follow our official 3D printer Instagram, and it's NoCo 3D Prints. So NOCO, the number 3D, and then PRINTS. I have a Facebook. NoCo 3D Prints has a Facebook. Again, just my name or NoCo 3D Prints. The time lapses are great. I feel like it's a great tool to help people visually understand how it prints layer by layer and slowly comes up into the figurine or the fidget that I've made.
You are definitely a printing wizard.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel like I understand your job a little bit better than Man Killer understood Helena's job.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I really wish we knew more about what her job was.
Yes. Now, one thing I enjoyed about this book is that it addressed some incredibly serious issues, but it still offered an amount of escapism that made this story entertaining for me without being overwhelmingly depressing. However, I do want to address the theme of politicians pretending to protect women by passing harmful legislation that is bad for everyone. It's incredibly frustrating that women's rights and trans rights vary based on what state they live in.
That has been just so heartbreaking to watch. I never thought as an adult this would be something I'd have to witness.
Yeah, and I live in South Dakota, and we seem to be a forerunner in taking away people's rights. It's difficult here.
Yeah, I definitely feel badly for anybody who's in a different state where they are struggling with rights. I am very grateful that I have been born and raised my entire life in Colorado. We definitely have some progressive legislature here. You know, we enshrined abortion rights in our Constitution. Last year, early this year, we signed a bill saying that your gender assigned at birth is no longer what has to be on your gender assigned at death certificate. So if you
Oh,
transitioned in life, the state of Colorado will recognize you as your gender when you die, or if you're non-binary. So we have updated our laws to recognize people because it is still harmful when someone has died
Hmm.
if they're still being misgendered on legal paperwork. Your death certificate should represent the life you led. And
Yeah.
so Colorado did change the laws saying that your gender at time of death is what will be recognized, not what your gender at birth was.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, earlier I mentioned that I bought my copy of Escape from Incel Island at my local bookstore, which is named Outside of a Dog.
Oh my gosh.
It's called Outside of a Dog because of a Groucho Marx quote, and that is outside of a dog, a book is a man's best friend. Inside of a dog, it's too dark to read.
I love that.
Unfortunately, this is the only bookstore within a 30-mile radius of where I live, and it's currently closed as of the date of this recording because the South Dakota legislature and governor won't stop attacking trans rights, and so the family who owned my local bookstore fled to a different state where it is safe to raise a family.
I am so sorry. It really breaks my heart when there's bookstore droughts.
This family is amazing, but they already had to travel over 5 hours in one direction for their daughter to see a doctor. And then the governor here signed a law that made it so their child could no longer use the correct bathroom at school. So I hope that your local bookstore community isn't experiencing anything like this.
My day job, Noco 3D Prints, is based in the basement of the Midnight Oil bookstore. This bookstore was started by my business friend, boss friend, Pablo Guzman. So the Midnight Oil bookstore, we definitely strive for as much community as possible. The community loves us, and we love the community.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
So I don't have a good segue out of this. So shall we just transition to the Maenad-O-Meter?
Let's do it.
The Maenad-O-Meter is our media metric used to evaluate dystopian media. It is inspired by the ancient Greek Maenads, who were legendary for partying in the woods and ripping apart those who oppressed them limb from limb. This is why we use a scale of 0 to 5 skulls as a rating, and this evaluation is independent of if we liked the story or thought it was successful. If this book has a lot of diversity and the people of marginalized genders were treated well, it will earn a high score. If this story didn't include very many feminine characters and they were treated poorly, then it will merit a low score. I also want to remind our friends listening that our scores often differ, and that's okay. Do you mind if I share my rating first?
You definitely go for it.
This is a little bit tricky because I enjoyed this story, but I want my rating independent, so I'm just evaluating the characters. And I'm going to give Escape from Incel Island 3.5 skulls. First of all, I appreciated that the author included many characters across the gender spectrum. I know that I complain about this frequently, but a lot of dystopian media forgets to include women in a meaningful way, and it's even more rare to see non-binary characters. In addition to including a non-binary character, the author made them the hero, which I appreciated. The second protagonist was a woman who was also competent and an expert in her field. She wasn't just magically good because the plot needed her to have a skill, but the narration helped explain that she had a PhD. I also want to give this novella credit because neither of the protagonists were damseled and had to be rescued by a man. Neither of them had to marry a dude either, but they both ended up kissing one man who learned how not to be a misogynist. I wonder if that was included in the story to teach men that if they stop seeing women as property, people of all genders will find them attractive.
I think that's a valid story point. I would like to speak with Margaret someday or read an interview with her about what was your overall goal for this book? Was it to end misogyny?
Yeah, regardless, I appreciate the variety of characters packed into this short book, and I would have given it a higher score except most of the characters were overwhelmingly men. Additionally, the two heroes had to endure a lot of violence, mostly due to their genders, but I'm aware that everyone suffered in this story. I bet that's supposed to be a metaphor for how everyone suffers under the patriarchy.
So yeah, patriarchy and consumerism.
Yep. Rachel, how would you rate Escape from Incel Island on the Maenad-O-Meter?
So I rated it a little bit higher. I gave it a 4. I understand that most of the characters were overwhelmingly male, but it is Escape from Incel Island, right? We know the plot of why the island exists. So, okay, we've got kind of a baseline here of mostly about men, but I really did enjoy the non-binary protagonist and how a couple of the characters even learned how to adapt to their pronouns. One of my favorite parts of that was when Mr. Cohn asked, "What pronouns do you use?" Man Killer said, "I stared at him like he was a dog who just stood up on his back legs and asked about the weather." And I was like, that is such a valid thing because in many spaces, nobody asks what your pronouns are.
Yeah.
They just kind of guess based on looks, and mistakes can be made there. So I thought that was also a valid point that Margaret's trying to bring up of like, hey, we should be a little bit more inclusive and don't just assume based on gender. Yeah, so enjoyed the non-binary person. Definitely enjoyed Marigold and their transgender story. And then Dr. Morrison, also great. She actually was intelligent. None of them played damsel in distress or feigned love interest to get what they needed to get and to get to safety. So a lot of tropes or stereotypes that we see in books weren't there.
Yeah.
And it was just a nice change of pace. So for me, it was a 4 out of 5 skulls because there were so many predictable plot lines that just weren't there.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
When I read a book, I always enjoy discussing it with my friends, and that's why I'm so happy you're here, Rachel.
I very much enjoyed reading it. It was a great suggestion. You just asked if I'd read it, and I said no, and then I read it, and I was like, you know what? This was actually a good recommendation. I like when friends recommend books. This one was a good one.
Good. I also invited my friends at the Unaccredited College of Klaire over at Patreon to contribute by rating the story on the Maenad-O-Meter. Our wonderful friends at UCK awarded Escape from Incel Island by Margaret Killjoy an average of 4 skulls, so they agree with you.
Nice.
I think you get bonus points for that.
Woohoo!
Rachel, thank you again for returning to the show.
Absolutely. It's such a joy to discuss all the niche things that we enjoy.
And before I let you go, I want to encourage our friends listening to visit your website, Rachael-Anne-Omps.com, which is RachaelAnneOmps.com. Not only can they order a cool 3D creation from you, but they can also see your event calendar along with your awesome photography. Finally, I need to thank you once again for reading Escape from Incel Island so we could talk about it together.
Thank you for the suggestion and for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Claire.
Femininity in the post-apocalypse is part of the Unaccredited College of Klaire. And yes, I'm committed to this bit of feigning that I don't know if UCK is truly an online art school or merely my academia-themed Patreon page. The joke hasn't ceased to be funny to me yet, which is why I'm encouraging all of you to find me at patreon.com/Klaire Lockheart. Because I'm the founder of UCK, I get to award honorary degrees to the best people I know. I'm excited to introduce you to the latest recipient of the Honorary Doctor of Dystopian Studies degree, who is an amazing printmaker. In addition to being an artist, Rebecca Bowers started Calendula Gallery in St. Paul, Minnesota with Helene Woods. She's also a member of Supercharged Printmakers in Minneapolis. My friends, if you missed the Art of Resistance show last April, you can see some of Rebecca's artwork by finding her on Instagram by following Rebecca's Garden of Life, which is spelled REBECCAS_garden_of_life. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Rebecca Bowers.
Well, hello, Claire. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited that you could take time out of all of the projects you have going on to be here today. But I heard that you have something new and exciting coming up with Springboard for the Arts.
Yes, thank you for bringing this up. I'm very excited that Springboard for the Arts selected me as one of the artists to participate in it's an artist respond type of event. It's called Artist Respond Weathering Together, and it's going to be this fall and winter. We're going to be working with the Environmental Initiative in Northeast Minneapolis, and it's to focus on collaboration with artists and the Northeast community focusing on environmental impact projects. So I'm just going to go to the training this Sunday and learn more about it, brainstorm some initiatives and ideas to use art as a vehicle to promote environmental stewardship, environmental justice. So I'm really excited about that. And this just happened. So it's a great opportunity to look forward to.
Congratulations on having that opportunity. I'm wrapping up my fellowship with Springboard for the Arts. So it's such an incredible organization, and I'm glad that you get the opportunity to work with them, and I'm happy they get the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
I can't wait to see updates about your project. Will you share those on your Instagram page?
Yes, absolutely.
And Blue Sky as well.
Yeah, another great way to reach other communities and artists. And one of the unique things about this project is that I'm going to be working with three poets. So we're not only going to have visual artists, we're going to be working with poetry and combining that together. So that'll be a really interesting way to combine the different artistic methods that we enjoy and can use to influence the community.
That's incredibly exciting. And Rebecca, I'm thrilled that you get to join me on the program today. I'm a big fan of the printmaking you've been doing, which has a great combination of your activism with your sense of humor. And I was honored to include your silkscreen piece titled A Woman's Place in the Thunder Domesticity Witness Me exhibition.
I was really honored to be included. It was a great exhibit, and I enjoyed meeting all the other artists.
Yes, your artwork looked fantastic.
It was a selfie. It was a photo of a selfie of me at the Women's March in January that I printed as a silk screen and then took a photo of it, of which you made a photo of it. So many, many layers of photos to get to that. Very unique idea, and I love to be in part of the exhibition.
I'm just glad that you were able to be part of the show. And I'm sorry, I'm geeking out. I'm just happy that you're here.
I'm happy. I'm a big fan of you, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Now, I'm sure you have a lot of projects you're eager to get back to, which is why I don't want to make you give a long, tedious speech in order to receive your honorary doctorate. Instead, I'm going to ask you 5 short questions so our friends listening can learn more about you.
Great. Yeah, looking forward to it.
For starters, what is one of your favorite dystopian movies?
Well, I do love many of the classics that I'm sure others say, like Mad Max or Terminator. Those are really well-known movies, but I really lean more towards the quieter, more thoughtful dystopian movies. And one I particularly like is a 2016 movie. It's called Into the Forest, and it's by Patricia Rozema. It's a Canadian movie, and it's about two sisters who are fighting to survive really after a long term power outage. So they're in a house kind of just outside of a larger town in the woods. And with this years of power outage, they're trying to survive. So they had, everything fall apart, no technology, had a lot of drama happen. And the reason I really like it is it's a difficult movie to watch because of all of the terrible things that happen to them, but it also shows how tenuous society is. We really need each other. And when things fall apart, like the grid goes down, or like you have problems with Wi Fi, like we had earlier, you need to have other ways to communicate and to survive. So I think really a lot of it is about relying on people that you trust and holding things together when life is really hard. So I recommend it. I think it's a great movie. So I hope you'll get a chance to watch it sometime.
Thank you for that recommendation. My second question is, what's a vital skill you have that is necessary for survival?
I am really good with plants, and I super nerd out on all things related to seeds and planting and harvesting. And I even go pretty deep on drying food. So, like, I have this giant dehydrator. I also hang herbs and dry them the old fashioned way, but I do a lot of food related activities. And I converted my yard into native and edible plants. So, I have things like raspberries and grapes and native plants that you can eat or use for herbs like anise hyssop or wild oregano, catnip, all of those things. So I have the outdoor gardening and food focus going on, but I also this past year learned to do hydroponic growing. So I got a bunch of grow lights, and no, I'm not growing weed. I'm growing things like basil and kale and spinach. So last winter, that was really my project. I started like in December, and I was growing seed all winter, and I still have a basil plant that I started in the winter that's just gigantic. And it really gave me a good feeling of, okay, so like if I can't get fresh food at a grocery store, I can at least have kale and basil. And it was really quite lovely and very low tech to be able to do. So I think as part of the environmental project that I was talking about with Springboard, I think I want to do some focus around urban gardening because I have a really small yard and a small house, and little things really make an impact. So if you can teach somebody how to grow a little bit of kale and basil in their basement with a grow light, it really helps with just self-sufficiency and having healthful food close by you, and it's very low cost.
Wow, I'm absolutely terrible at growing plants. And then I was going to ask you too about growing plants because you're in Minnesota, which is well known for some very harsh climate in the wintertime.
Right. Well, get some grow lights and you can grow things in your basement during the winter.
My next question is, would you rather fight a robot made out of Campbell's soup cans or fight Andy Warhol's wig?
Oh my gosh.
You're a printmaker. I had to
Oh.
ask.
I think I go for the robot out of the soup cans because I think that wig is probably filthy. It's just got to be like soaked in all kinds of, I don't know, sweat and just chemicals. And I don't know. I'll go with the canned robot.
Sorry, I didn't consider how nasty his wig would be.
And no disrespect to Mr. Warhol, but a wig that had that much, mileage on it, I think probably could be quite deadly. So robot it is.
All right. My penultimate question is, what helps you feel prepared?
So I mentioned the gardening and the plant related stuff, but I think the reason I feel prepared is I grew up learning to be prepared. I grew up with my grandparents who grew up in the Depression on farms. So they know how to do everything and they taught us a lot. And I can do everything from all of the growing to canning to weird things like I could pluck a chicken and I could clean fish. And I also know you save the fish guts to put in the garden. So I'm that kind of poverty farmer know-how. Like I know how to do that. And I and I could do it if I needed to. So I think they really taught me to just make do with what you have. Like there's that saying, make do or do without. So I can be quite resourceful. Like I live in the city and I can do all these things, but I'd like to think that if times get really tough, I could revert back to those country ways and remember how to do all of the things. Because I think being resourceful is really important. And part of that is just learning all the time. And, like the hydroponics, like that was a new skill that I taught myself that I learned from others. So just learning how to make do and be resourceful is really important.
Wow, I appreciate that. Finally, what words of wisdom would you like to share with us?
I've been thinking about community a lot, and a lot of it is the art community that I rely on. But just in general, I feel that community is the only way to survive. It's always been that, like back to village times. People really need each other. And I think we've become isolated with the high technology reliance. And you can watch a YouTube video to learn how to do anything, but we really need each other. We need to be able to support each other. And it's really the point of our lives. We need to contribute to society. And I feel like, many points we're contributors and what we can give to others to make their life better. Like I've loved the different projects I've done with other artists, and that community coming together is really strong. And you get so much more done when you could do projects together and influence the community together, as opposed to just acting by yourself. And with the skills that you have, you can contribute to the world in a much better way by opening your arms and welcoming others in. And sometimes we support others, and other times we need that support ourselves. So I think community is really important in all the things that we need to do. And it's, again, the only way to survive long term and to be happy. And I get a lot of joy from working with the community and being able to do really great things together.
That's wonderful. And even though we are not nearby as neighbors, I do feel like I am part of your community, and that does bring me a lot of joy. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel like you're part of my community too. And I feel like we just have done some really cool things together, and this being one of them. Thank you for the invitation to be part of your show, and part of the show we were together just back, what was that, in June? What was the show that we had? I can't even remember when Witness Me was.
Time has no meaning anymore.
Right? Couple of months ago, or was it a couple of years ago? I feel like it was
dear.
at least a couple of months ago.
It was a couple of months ago. But thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Rebecca.
Why, thank you. That has a nice ring to it.
Femininity in the Post-Apocalypse was created and edited by me, Klaire Lockheart. When I'm not discussing dystopian media with my friends, I'm often in my studio making oil paintings of dudes. You can find previous episodes of this podcast along with my artwork at clairelockhart.com, which is spelled KLAIRELOCKHEART. Special thanks goes to Aaron C. Packard of Aaron C. Packard Productions for providing the voiceover work at the beginning of the show along with my recording equipment. Join me in sharing my gratitude by visiting his website, aaronpackard.com, to see his awesome photography. His site is spelled AARONPACKARD.com. As usual, I've saved the best for last. I have to thank you, my wonderful friends, for joining me. I create this show for you, and it makes me incredibly happy when you listen and recommend this program to your friends.